Welcome to Wednesday Live, everyone. We are live this week, and man, do I have a treat for you. Our guest today is Nelson Duckett, somebody who I've had the pleasure of meeting recently, but he's been a member of the Comcast family for 21 years. We were just having a laugh about that. He spent 2 years at AT&T and the last 21 years at Comcast, something that he thought would be a brief blip on his career trajectory, and here he's still making major contributions. He's the vice president of operations located in Utah, and I'm just so thrilled to have you here, Nelson.
Thank you. Shannon, I'm excited to just spend some time with you. Look, I don't get to live the East Coast life anymore, so you keep your cold, I'll keep my Utah cold.
Yes, well, it's been reasonably cold there too, right?
Yes, but we're in the 20s, but you all really get snow. We get sprinkles of snow. So I just want you, I've been watching the news. I just want you to keep that East Coast snow that's going on. We'll keep this beautiful Utah sunny weather and our chilly cold and a little bit of this snow. And we'll find a happy balance, right?
Yeah. And is it still, like, what are some of the things that you love about Utah?
So Utah's a beautiful state. The one thing about being in Utah, so this is my first year in Utah, and I thought coming in, I would just be able to experience the beauty of Utah. The number one thing that you fall in love with is mountains. And I tell people that, have been here for 20, 30, 50 years, the question, do you see the mountains all the time? And they always say yes. And it is, we live in like a bowl. And so you walk outside and you see mountains all around you, and it's a beautiful circle. Yeah. But I tell you, just the Utahns in general are some amazing people. And so if you add just the culture that is Utah and then the mountains, the beauty, it makes you fall in love with it very shortly.
Yeah, it's a special place. And, yes. And it's been an unusual year. So I think to start us off today, doing a reflection on 2020, all of our guests in December are reflecting on this wild year that we are coming to an end from. Nelson, what are some of the reflections you have? I mean, that's a huge question, but what are some reflections you have of 2020?
2020. So let me start off by saying I thought coming in, taking a new job in a new state would be this outstanding, great experience. I'd be able to have a lot of normalcy. I'd have this new team in a new state. I live in California for 30 years. There's no way I would run into any challenges other than just learning a new job and new people. Yeah. And my reflection in looking at 2020 is, one is the pandemic. And the first thing you think about is we've all been asked to pivot. Our entire lives had to pivot. Well, I was already ready to pivot. And so that was my first reflection is that I was already going through a pivot period. And then you add in the pandemic. But, when I reflect on just this 2020, Utah's experienced an earthquake where we haven't had an earthquake in 30-something years. And I left California. I thought I left earthquakes.
Yeah, right. That's where you used to live.
Right. Beautiful, sunshine and snow and a little bit of cold. And I come in and I'm here in just a couple months. And now I've got an earthquake. And of course, the fantastic team that I have at Comcast, the one note that they told me is, of course, Nelson, you brought it with you. It was over, right? And then we go into, the pandemic. So the earthquake happened right at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I thought, I'm still just trying to find a place to live. Mm-hmm. We went from a variety of different things that just inside of the business and inside of shutting down a state and having to pivot our business as an organization and care for customers and care for our employees. While in reflection for me, I'm still trying to care for finding a place to live, get comfortable in a brand new state, just trying to figure out where the grocery store is and, where everything is in the facilities when I can go.
Sure.
And then we ran into a windstorm. And there are things you can prepare for in life. There's things that you cannot prepare for because this is a great state of Utah. And we had a windstorm that we probably had never experienced ever in Utah's existence, where the winds were hurricane winds of 115 miles per hour. And here's the dynamic that really gave us some true perspective on 2020 is in normalcy in our minds, a windstorm comes and it goes. This windstorm stayed all day. It didn't go away. It didn't stop. It didn't end. We woke up in the morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. It stopped. It started. It stopped at 5 p.m. And so
Oh my God.
it from central to northern Utah.
Yeah.
When I reflect on, what I have received or what I've really gotten out of 2020, it has been this. Look, I've been asked to be resilient personally, but then also as a member of our organization. My employees have been the most resilient that I could ever ask them to be, which is amazing. But they've also been asked to be resilient with their customers. And so the lesson that I've learned is that one, be open, two, be grateful, three, be adaptable to whatever the situation is or what's going on. It is amazing to not know what's coming, but to still have to use poise and calmness to adjust to, hey, life is what it is.
Yeah.
We need to be able to battle through it. And 2020 has taught me, look, you don't know what's coming, but be okay with whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good insight. Something we can all relate to is just like, even when you don't know what's coming, if you don't know what the message is, but you know that people are looking to you for something to hang on to or for some stability. So as the leader, having that poise, two words that you said really stand out for me is poise and pivot, and that willingness or ability or that agility to just go with what's coming and how do you respond to it in a way that's like professional and honest. I mean, something I love about you is your transparency and your honesty. So I think what I'm also understanding is that you're doing it authentically. You're just doing it in a very adaptable way.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. I think it as a leader, when you think about just being a leader in any organization, you're not just a leader at work. You're a leader outside in your family. Your friends need you. And at the end of the day, what we have is people want you to be genuine. People need, genuine people to be around. And when I think about this amazing journey that I'm on in Utah, and then within 2020, my reality is that I am being challenged to be even more transparent and be even more genuine with my views, my perspectives. And then, we do this thing called random acts of kindness. And there's no, some of them are big, some of them are small. It might be that we just sent you a text and just said, hey, hope you have a good day. And that's all it is. And it is we've been doing it for years as a leadership team. But here's the thing. When you go into a new place, people just don't know you.
Yeah.
And then you start to do these unique things. And then you look at 2020. At the end of the day, the goal is for me to work on being a better person. And it pushes me and drives me. I think 2020's helped that for me as a person.
Sure. Yeah. If you look at it that way, right, it could take us down or it could make us stronger depending on the angle that you decide to look at it. And even when we're looking at it as a growth and learning opportunity, there's still moments where we feel beat down or just exhausted. So that's, normal. But I'm hearing you say like you're always looking for ways to grow, learn, develop, strengthen. And when you're talking about how surprised people were at some of the things that you were doing, I find that really interesting and delightful.
Yeah, well, it's corporate America. And, outside, when I was growing up, 40 something years ago, I think when I looked at business, you just looked at it was a job. You didn't come in. Comcast is the organization. It's, we talk about, it's business is family and family is business. But in Comcast, it really is a family. And so when you think about everything that we do inside of the organization and putting the employee first, you don't know what someone is going to come in to do. And the acts of kindness are totally different by each leader because we're all different. And uniqueness in being, leader before me did a fantastic job of always being, in an office or, shaking the hand. Well, for me, I don't get that opportunity because it's 2020. The organization, it's funny, we're a hugging organization. I didn't realize, that until I started interacting and spending time in other businesses, and I didn't realize everybody doesn't hug. Like the first interaction is it's to shake a hand. Well, we hug a lot. And in 2020, we no longer hug. And it's been my culture for the last 21 years that's all we do. Yeah. And having to pivot again and find ways to do things differently in 2020, they've been unique.
Yeah. Like what? What are some examples of ways that you've been able to virtually hug each other, like stay connected and care about and really embrace each other?
Well, this virtual world is interesting. I hear, so we're doing everything on video. And so virtually, right now, in order to stay connected, we spend a lot of time having regular cadence of meetings
Hmm.
where we ask everybody to get on video. It's unique to ask a technician to turn on your camera.
Yeah.
Their world is not this. Their world is, hey, I want to go out and service a customer and have a personal interaction, not get on a video and have a meeting. And we've asked them to turn on their cameras, interact with regular team buildings and just have some unique conversation with us.
Yeah.
It's interesting to ask people to pivot to, use the chat section.
Hmm.
Type in the chat and give us your thoughts. Tell us what's working, what's not working. Give us a call. Be more transparent than you've ever been. Tell us what's working. Now, normally in business, we would do that automatically, but
Sure.
there's something about being able to pivot and ask people to all look at each other. Because here's the thing about being virtual. When you sit in a room, you're not always going to look at everybody in the room. You're most likely going to look at whoever's speaking. Well, on the virtual world, you're forced to look at everyone on camera.
Yeah.
And you're looking at everybody in the box, and it makes you interact more. And
Right.
our
Isn't
team,
it ironic? I mean, you would think it would be the opposite, or you think that would be less connected, but you're right. And you can see everybody all in one shot. Normally you'd have to like look around the room, or you'd only get to see the person who you could see through the crowd. But now you could see the whole lot of everybody. And sometimes there's so many people on these calls that you can just keep hitting the arrow and, sliding over to see like the next set. So in a way, it's like it is more communal, and it's a leveler too because everybody's virtual.
right? And look, you can multitask, right? But reality is you're on video, so you're less prone to multitask.
Yeah,
Everyone is looking at you.
yeah, right. And if you're chatting and it doesn't show up on the group feed, then you know that somebody's doing a private chat.
Exactly.
What are y'all talking about? But when you were talking about how technicians are just probably not as accustomed to being asked to be on video, but responding well to it, and how you're using some of those technology options to stay connected as a team. That's really great. Anything else that you've experienced this year that was just like, wow, that was so unusual? I mean, so much has changed in your life this year with your move, your new role, the pandemic, all of this stuff that we're talking about. What are some other reflections from the year?
2020 has taught me that one, you have to use self-care. That is something that I don't know if before 2020, and I'll use my weight for instance. It's a great example. 2019, the beginning of the year, I went to the doctor, and doctor said, "Hey, your blood pressure's high," and I told her she was wrong and incorrect, and I became a doctor at the moment because I wanted to tell her there was no way my blood pressure was high. I eat pretty good.
Yeah.
And she threatened me with the uncomfortable conversation of if you don't lower it yourself, that you will be on blood pressure pills. Automatically, I thought, well, one, I'm not getting on blood pressure pills because I just don't want to be prisoned to medication.
Yeah.
You want me to stop drinking coffee and cut out sugars and carbs? And it went back to the first thing, cut out coffee? I mean, are you okay? And so these are the conversations I had in January of 2019. And I thought I did a really good job of managing my self-care and my health. And 2020, January, I moved to Utah and randomly just going to weigh myself. And I'll be transparent and sharing this because, weight is not something everyone likes to talk about, but I was 43 and I'm 6'1". 243 at 6'1" is not a healthy weight for any man at 6'1". And so I thought about my blood pressure, I thought about my weight, but it took the pandemic to occur for me to take a look at what am I doing for me? And so building up this model to care for everyone else inside of my organization and my family, I've got to reflect on myself for 5 months of the year and say, am I taking care of my education? Am I checking in on my family enough? Am I calling my grandmother? And then I went back to that first point was my biggest reflection is is I don't want to lose my life because I didn't care for me first.
Mm.
From 243 to 214
Oh.
every day. And it's I make this joke, and the joke is that and every employee that's worked for me in the last 10 years knows it. Look, I will tell people I can see my neck now, and be able to say I can see my neck. It's funny, right? But it's also one of the most healing things that I've had in 2020. And so I tell people, look, if you ask me, I don't like working out. I think it's horrible.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy getting up, putting on workout clothes, or going to get on a Peloton, or just going outside and hiking. I love what I accomplish when it's over, or to the journey, but I don't enjoy it all. But my biggest 2020 reflection personally is that you cannot be greater for someone else if you don't take care of yourself.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Say it again. You cannot be greater for someone else if you're not great to yourself.
That's right.
That is something everybody needs to hear.
I think.
Congratulations on that, Nelson. That is an incredible accomplishment. And I know everybody's wondering how you did it. So if you could just give us like 1 or 2 tips.
Look, the tips is so I'm not into dieting, right? So let me say this. I am not your expert. So, govern yourselves accordingly. But there's 2 things that I do every day. I am active for 30 minutes every day, regardless of the day. So if I can't get on the Peloton and just ride the bike for 30 days, I walk the neighborhood until I hit that 30-minute window.
Okay.
And whatever extra time, there is not a day that's going to go by that I am not going to be 30 active minutes. That's. But the other thing I did, which is really simple, is I moved any of my alcohol or adult beveraging intake to weekends only. And so what it forced me to do was just take a look at how much was I doing Monday through Friday. I believe that it was a lot, but there's other things that you add in through your week, like too much coffee, too many carbs. And so Monday through Friday is my health option. And so I eat better Monday through Friday. I try to spread my coffee intake out, throughout the week, and I try to drink. And then I use Saturday and Sunday to not splurge.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I am going to be free, but I created my routine to just say I will be more active and eat healthier on Friday. And then the last thing I'll tell you is Saturday I go over. So whatever I did during the week, my let's say, personal best day throughout the week, I just use Saturday to double that time.
Oh, wow.
I was able to get 45 minutes, on Tuesday. Then, I'm doubling that 45 minutes on Saturday. And I do it early so that I don't give myself an excuse with, oh, I'm tired Saturday, I just want to sleep in and rest. No, I make it a priority, and I hold myself accountable.
Oh my gosh, that's it. It's set clear goals, make it a priority, hold yourself accountable, right? Because you're saying you can't be the police of everyone. Everyone needs to be willing to do that for themselves. And you're saying if we don't do that, then we can't be this generous, available, resourceful leader. It would even be more difficult to be resilient and pivoting and more creative if we're bogged down, be that by physical weight or just by emotional, mental weight. I think that's a really great bit of advice, and something, you're right. 2020 made that much more of it's a requirement. It's not a recommendation or a suggestion. It's like, if you're going to survive, you must prioritize yourself and your own wellness.
Yeah, you called it. 2020, everything has to be now, a requirement. It has to be our responsibility. It has to be just your personal core value now.
Yeah.
It has to, so if you have 4, and now it's number 5. Here's the thing, Shannon, it can't stop in 2020. And that is the one thing I have written down for myself is that when 2020 is over, what am I going to do in 2021? And then transition that to 2022, and then continue to go on. Because if I don't, everything that I built in 2020 for myself, for my family, for my organization, if I don't continue that, then I fail. And I fail for Nelson. I fail for the reason that I did it in the first place, which was for others outside of my own personal health. If I don't continue it, I did nothing, and I didn't do it for the right reason. And the lives that we live are really to create examples for others.
Yes, absolutely. and to think about all of the ways in which we're modeling behavior, or even just the humility of saying, I wasn't doing it right.
Right.
I didn't have a plan, or I wasn't holding myself accountable, or I was just allowing myself to behave according to my feelings, right? If we all behaved according to our feelings, we could all be in really serious trouble.
Right.
So have the discipline of having a routine so that you're not going to be influenced by just how you feel in the moment. And when you're saying you do it first thing in the morning, I think that's a terrific habit for those who can make that happen so that you don't get caught up in all of the other responsibilities that you have.
Right.
Yeah, that's really great. So any other last like 2020 insights? There's so much this year.
Well, I'll tell you, if I would, so I think everybody should create their 2020 wins and their 2020 opportunities. I don't call things losses because I feel like, look, and everything you do is an opportunity. If you did lose, you didn't really lose. Not if you made it a priority to not lose again, but you're not always going to get a W. But if I gave people closing comments, I would say, look, hey, there's things that we have to personally learn about 2020 for ourselves. And then you have to learn whether it's inside of your business or your family, or if you're in school, like what went well. And reflection is the number one thing that a lot of people really need to do. And of course, it's the end of the year. So it's that time of the year that we're all going to reflect on what are our, what's the thing that we do every New Year's?
The resolutions.
It's so, everybody's starting to work on what is my 2021 resolution. But I'll tell you, this year, people might be caught up in what is my 2021 New Year's resolution if I never accomplish my 2020 goals. And the thing is what's more important, looking at the value of what you need to accomplish for you versus what you didn't do. That's what's important. And that's what I would ask everybody to think about in 2021 is, how do you love on yourself more? How do you create a more comfortable environment for those around you? How do you teach and develop and inspire more? Because what we're missing a lot is people just to love on each other. And the biggest reflection is to look at everything that went wrong and to just write off those opportunities just for you. You might be able to share those with people that did not know that they were there, because I think it's also a win. But I think also the last thing that I'll give you is, I think we should all write out our wins. For me, is moving to Utah has taught me so many things about myself. I know that I'm not the morning person that I used to be, and I know that I love to go to bed at 9 o'clock, and that is actually my goal, but it doesn't occur all the time. But now it's a goal, where in California, I would have went to bed at 12 or 1. I've learned so much about myself in 2020. It's been amazing. And I just ask people, write out your 2020 magic. Share it with people so that people know exactly what's been great about 2020 for you. Because I think we can all continue to learn from each other.
Oh, that's so great. I'll write mine out and send them to you. I'd love to see yours also, because I think that's such a different way to reflect on the year. I think very often we're looking at what didn't happen or all of the tragic things that did happen. But for us to say, for us personally, to be reflective of and specifically and intentionally focused on the wins, that helps us to sift out all of the other things and just look for the gems that are left, so that we can then carry those into 2021 and say, okay, so if I was able to do that during a pandemic with all of this other stuff going on, what's possible for me in a moment in time where I'm not so restricted or there's not so much fear.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But look, Shannon, the number one thing we've had this year is the word fear. And what are we going to have in 2021? We're going to have that same thought process in our minds, and it's going to be wrapped around fear.
Yeah.
Don't take the time to think about self and really what are we scared of personally. Then we haven't taken the time to figure out, how do we get the right help. I'm no psychiatrist, so I would never tell somebody, look, you have to do A, B, C, and D. But I'll tell you what has worked for me. It is to write down what I've been scared at, and scared with this year. But then reflecting back to 2019, was just a fast-paced year in my business for me. It just, everything happened fast, and We did a lot, and then 2020 was supposed to be my slowdown year, and there's so many things, and trying to figure out how do I do so many different things. I did ask myself, what am I scared of? What am I going to transition over into 2021?
Yeah. Anything you'd be willing to share with us? What are you afraid of?
My biggest thing is I am working on a degree in leadership, and the biggest thing is switching a degree right in the middle and wanting to look at education from a larger scale. That is the biggest thing that I will tell you that it freaks me out, because now it's no longer about like what am I doing day to day. It's I am trying to look at an international aspect of how I look at leadership in business. And that's something that I came up with this year because of the pandemic. Like, for a great organization that has afforded me some great opportunities to challenge myself and learn, but am I doing enough? And in looking at my education, I said, I want to make a pivot for me and learn even bigger. But it's also the scariest thing possible, because now it's more to the plate. It's more to add on to 2021, and it's more of an adjustment to get ready for.
Yeah. So you're shifting your academic focus?
I am.
To international leadership?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And it's scary because it's like big and probably overwhelming in some cases, but how are you approaching it then, Nelson? How are you applying what you know and some of your wisdom to this big goal?
Resources. Look, I'll tell you, you have to know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And there is power in acknowledging what I don't know. And I would challenge everybody to say the same thing. I realize that, like, for me, I don't know much about international business. And then you add leadership to that. Look, in another country, it might be different to run your business from a leadership aspect, because the expectations might be different.
Yeah.
Than, where I'm at. And that is the adjustment of just moving state to state, realizing the expectations of cultures are different.
So different.
What I'm doing is I am reaching out to people that are in different roles and in different views, have different views and different perspectives on not only leadership, but human resources, and getting that knowledge as I am going through my transition to say, hey, there might be things as I am getting this additional knowledge that I just don't understand, but you live that world and have that dynamic. And I'm not going to let pride get in the way of me asking you for help or asking the right questions. And that also goes into what I feel like is going to be my 2021 campaign, but just, whole holistic organic growth for Nelson Duckett going forward as a person.
Yes. Yeah. And like, what does that look like? How can you level it up? Like you were saying before, like, what did I do really well? How can I take that up one more notch? Not in an unrealistic perspective, but just in like an always growing, always strengthening. And I think what you're saying about the leveraging your resources and like knowing what you don't know, what a humble and strong thing for any of us to consider is like, what do I not know? What's just not in my lane, but what needs to be in order for me to accomplish this thing that I'm up to? Who could I partner with? And when you talked about like leaving your ego at the door, and I think that that's what gets in the way of any of us actually asking for help, is that I don't know if we have some shame or we think we should know everything, or I don't know what really it is, but your encouragement to ask for help and find people who could be resources is something I hope all of us are hearing.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think it's important. If you asked me 20 something years ago, would I have been this guy? I would have told you no. I was, young 20s, and I probably thought I knew everything. And I would have told you feedback's not a gift. Feedback is not a gift because I don't need your feedback. I know what I'm doing. And I think the power in growing, but not just growing, you have to grow and sustain what people are giving you and in what you understand. Mm-hmm. And if you don't sustain it, well, you can grow all day. But if you don't retain the information that people are giving you, and I know it's sometimes hard to receive feedback.
Yeah.
Some people, you have to figure out like what's valuable to you, but what's also not valuable to you, and write that down as well. You have to take both and then just separate them in your box and don't get rid of either. Keep both of them so that you can go back and look through. I didn't agree with this, But if it can help me grow 5 years from now because it's something that maybe I don't see today, but I might pick up later and realize I did have it, you grow.
Right. So talk to us more about feedback as a gift, and I would love it if you had an example of what you just said about like something that you've been told that you were like skeptical of its utility in your life, but then later reflected and said, "No, that was good for me to know, or something for me to consider." So just a little bit more about how feedback is a gift.
I'll say this: in my career, so I moved around in the business, just inside of the state of California a lot. And you take on different roles, and you just assume once you do that homework that you don't need feedback. You should be good to go. And I've had a variety of leaders come in my life and give me feedback. I'll give you a quick example
Yeah.
of feedback that went wrong that I didn't understand at first. I was working in San Francisco. I was a technical operations manager, and my team made this video. And great video. I mean, I still think the video is great today. But here's what was wrong about the video is, one, as a leader, I didn't see the video until the night before we were going to introduce the video to our team. And so out of pure excitement, I didn't do enough work to audit through the video to make sure it was going to be presented correctly. So video 9 o'clock at night, and I'm excited about the video. And the video went over well with the group of employees I showed it to. But what I didn't realize was some of the messaging that had come out in the video was, it was hurtful to other leaders. And so I got feedback, but see, the way the feedback came, it wasn't valuable to me. And so I couldn't get that feedback and understand what people meant. And me believes I was just young and ignorant at that moment. And it worked for, the team that I was trying to create it for. And I didn't see the other people on the outside and my peers and the other leaders in the organization. And I'll tell you, in full transparency, it took me a couple of years and a change in the way that the feedback was given for me to recognize by people pointing out some of the things that in the video that they were concerned about, and still the feedback wasn't clear, Shannon. They gave me so much feedback. It made me go back and look at the video and listen to the variety of feedback. And I pieced it together and realized that it was totally my mistake as a leader. It took me 4 years to recognize. And I think, sometimes feedback is given to you soft because people don't want to hurt your feelings and they want to still care for you as a person. And I think that's what was occurring. Would have benefited young Nelson is you probably just needed to give it to me direct.
Yes.
ABC. And it didn't occur. And I knew that people were trying to care for my feelings.
Yes. Yeah. And it's hard. It is hard to have those conversations and, on both sides. It's hard to hear it. It's hard to say it. And sometimes people are really indirect. And so you're saying what you know about yourself is it's most useful when it's clear.
Right.
And exact, and like whatever you got to see the second or third time around to say, oh, okay, now I'm understanding what you mean. And I wonder if the feedback originally was judgmental, like you hurt someone's feelings, which is hard to know, like how and what exactly did I do. And so as you're like decompressing it, and then you're also saying that you're more mature now and you've like really had a chance to look at it on a different level. But it's a great example. Thanks for your willingness to share that, because there's so many times that we do things that we're not intending to hurt someone's feelings or be controversial or, even exclude someone. But, we're just looking at it through, like you said, I was so excited about the video and that the team was well represented. So I can understand how that happens, and just that willingness to stick to it is the point that really stands out for me in this example, is that you could just have said, that was years ago, it's over with, leave it alone. But that you kept using it as an opportunity to learn is, I think, significant.
And look, and I'll tell you, sometimes we just forget, like if a mistake has been made and you wrong somebody and you don't know, it doesn't mean that, you didn't wrong the person, so you have to be very relentless in ensuring if the conversation continues to go up, what has occurred, because it really could be on both sides. It
Mm-hmm.
could be one-sided, but if it comes up, figure out just simply what happened. And that's what I learned is it was my action. And so and the action was bigger than I knew.
Mm-hmm.
I recognized what it was. Then I made the adjustment and the correction. And I think that it's just made me, a more aware leader now. But again, I wish it wouldn't have took me 4 years to pick it up. But that 4-year journey allows me to tell you a greater story and give you more detail about the impact that it made for me personally.
Mm-hmm. How did you circle back around? Because something you said a minute ago is like if you owe someone an apology, or I forget how you said it, but if it's like, was there something that you did to come full circle on this one, or is it more just like here's a lesson learned for the future?
Well, so there's two things here, and I have to give Comcast California region, I have to give them their kudos because our regional vice president of California at that time was Hank Ford, and he used to do these things called coaches camp, and it was where we would pull our entire leadership team together and we'd have a leadership meeting and over development. And in that meeting, part of one of the meetings that I was a part of during the time, I had the opportunity, or received the opportunity to get in front of the entire California leadership team and address the story. And nobody asked me to. I just felt like it was the most appropriate thing to do. And I told them the story that I'm telling you. And I went a little bit more deep, and I was a little bit more vulnerable in sharing. I just didn't know. And we don't all get that opportunity. I was just blessed with that opportunity to make it right for leaders that I didn't even know if I offended. That was a blessing. But the other thing that I did without even knowing is I got some feedback from a leader, a vice president once, many, many years ago, while I was in that role, to reach out to my peers and ask them for a strength and an opportunity. How hard it is to reach out to somebody and ask them to be personal and share one strength and one opportunity with you, and you're their peer. And I asked 10, 15 leaders to be personal with me, just give me the truth, tell me, and maybe a quarter of them, really gave me something to work on. And I will tell you, what I learned out of that is my personality too strong where people don't want to give me feedback? Part of it is I have this huge voice and this big East Coast personality. And so, yes. And so it helped me to address one, if someone is not giving me everything, that, it's partly I've created that environment. And the piece is that, too, for the people that did give me feedback that I didn't agree with, did I create that feedback for them? By not being open or transparent enough. I told you this transparency thing has kicked in over the years. Well, we're talking, 2014, 2015, in a prior role, or 2013, it was slightly different for me. I was 3 roles behind and I was by myself. And the lesson in learning is, one, you have to self-assess how much have you created in your environment? How much are you willing to make it right for everyone else? Learn from it. And then, part of this is just about being vulnerable, trying to not make the mistakes again, put ego, to the side. Pride is something that every person has. How do you manage your pride? And then how do you just continue to stay confident in what you're doing? Because it is a breakdown when you're trying to evaluate if you're doing things the right way. But that's 2020 for us. It's the resiliency of, okay, I made it. I'm gonna make it right. Now let's just continue to move forward, because we have to go out and do what needs to happen to give people wins.
No doubt. And it's very similar to what you were saying about self-care and physical fitness, of like being the role model and being willing to go first, or to demonstrate what this looks like. And the same is true for what you're saying with feedback, both the willingness to give it, because if you're asking for it, it would be reciprocal to offer it to people, especially when you're seeing it as such a gift. And then that willingness to accept feedback, like how someone receives feedback, is, I think, as important as how someone gives feedback, graciously, gratefully, open to like the possibility of what's true about what was said and how I play a part in it. And your assessment of that situation where you were like, I created a situation that was the reality that someone was giving me feedback about. Like the ownership is something I'm hearing what you're saying. That's just a good role modeling for us to take more ownership in our own stories and the impact we're having on people.
Right. But yeah, our division president at that time was Steve White. And one of the things that he had brought into the division was owners versus renters. That was just about, like in your role, do you own, responsibilities and being an owner in the business, or are you just renting? And this is not your, and I will tell you, I learned as the years went on, am I leading and just moving with an owner mindset, not just in running a metric or leading a team, but for me, that was one of the most personal healings that I think that I walked through for myself. And it's not anything I'd probably ever share with anyone other than just right now. Was there's a personal healing that comes in when you take somebody else's message, their goal and their vision, and you take it away from the environment that it was created in, and you put it in another environment for yourself. And you, okay, like, am I owning, when I walk outside and there's trash on the ground, am I owner or am I a renter? Do I pick up the trash and put it in the garbage that's right next to it, or do I just keep walking by? And I have used that message for myself, and there's no perfect magic to it, but it's just the awareness to just say, am I just, living, or, am I just going day by day?
Yeah, right. And I think that transcends into so many different areas of our lives, like inclusion, right? Because if I'm a renter and there's not diversity represented in my environment, then I'm like, you know what? I'm only here for a short while. I'm just paying my rent and I'm out. But if I'm an owner, I'm like, there's something wrong with this. There's something that needs to be fixed here. There's another level of thoughtfulness that needs to be applied into this situation. So I think that it applies to so many things, like walking down the street and seeing trash, like being a part of a conflict or being aware of a conflict. A renter says, it's not my business, work it out. An owner says, how can I mediate or support the two of you finding common ground and working through that? And so I think sometimes that ownership mentality may put more responsibility on us, which is a good thing. It's like you're in it because you're a part of it. If you're part of an organization, a part of a community, part of a family.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it's not that much, we probably put more on ourselves than we need to, but we really can handle what we have if we just make sure that we're balancing out what's on our plate.
Yeah, right. So earlier you spoke about random acts of kindness, something a Comcast practice. What can you share with us about what does that look like? Is it formal, informal? Is it random? Is it systematic? I mean, tell me about the Comcast random acts of kindness.
Well, I'll tell you, it's different everywhere. Being a member of this organization for 21 plus years, I've seen it done in a variety of different ways. Like I work for a great leader in Chris Weeks. He's probably, the most unique, creative leader I've worked for, and he comes up with these out of the box things. We do this thing called Field Day. And to me, coming in, it's only been a year. That is a random act of kindness to give back to, to your team where, we sit at these levels of decision makers. And so we're wearing blazers and button ups. And the people that, we are working with go out in the field and they put on boots. And he has created an environment where quarterly we go out and we run around. 21 years. That's not the thing you're going to think about. And that is one of the hugest random acts of kindness I've ever run across in my entire life. It is, yes, I'm a vice president, but I'm going to put myself in your world and I'm going to put on boots and I'm going to go out and I'm going to go run a route and I'm going to go to a customer's house, and I'm going to go put myself in your shoes. That is amazing. They're so random from, like personal thank you cards where what's traditional. We send a card. We have a global message on the card, and we send it out to the team. And yes, that happens everywhere. But additionally to that, we also write personal notes. And then we don't worry about if we're writing a handwritten note to 20 people or 30 people. It could be 100 people. It is the act of we're not doing it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Personalized. And it's a personal note. No, it's not going to Comcast. It's going to you. It's going to your house, on behalf of that leader. And so, yes, it comes as behind or represents from the organization. But the reality is, Shannon, it's just Nelson talking to Cindy and Cindy, telling Cindy she's a fantastic person, not an employee. You're a fantastic person. I love you and your family, and I love what you're about. I hope that you've been able to manage through this year. But then we have this thing called it's a thanks website. And we, as Comcasters, get the opportunity to go on 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and just simply write in a note and give people thanks. And they get points, but it's not about the points, Shannon. It's just about, I just want to send you a note. It's a global message. The entire company can see it. Yeah. Just say, Shannon, I think you're an amazing employee. Or happy 25-year anniversary. Or, you know what? I appreciate you coming down and bringing me that cable box because I was going to be here for another 3 hours. Or I was going to have to leave this customer and go to the warehouse. And we have a variety of just little tiny things.
Yeah.
We do in Utah, this amazing group of people that I've been afforded the opportunity to just come and experience, Comcast with. I walk into, they do this thing, it's called Dine and Ditch, where I had never heard of this. And so I come in and they're like, hey, we're doing Dine and Ditch. And it's right after the pandemic starts. And I'm like, what's Dine and Ditch? And they're walking me through where, employees are working in the field and a leader goes to, let's say, like a Burger King, and they let the employees know, hey, you just come in and, get a meal and we'll give you a meal and you go on out. And I just look at like, how amazing is that? And how different is that inside of a big business like mine, that is an idea that was created by a leader within the organization and then shared out. Like, those are the random acts. And look, we're not trying to, get awards for it. We're not trying to be thrown on billboards or get commercials. It's just simply, how do we continue to give back to the employee and make the employee experience as important as a customer experience?
That's it. Yeah, it's the culture you're creating, with that culture of caring and investing and like noticing. So like for these techs that have been out in the field, they probably haven't eaten. They're like, most tech issues are hours longer than anybody anticipates. And so for the leadership team and others to participate in something like Dine and Ditch and give people a meal, just a nice surprise, a way to bring someone joy and sustainability, right? To give them nourishment. There was also a situation where there was an individual in the Utah team who was concerned about you over the holidays. Could you share that with us?
So my family is not here, and I am taking this Utah journey alone. And there's nothing. This is the first time in my entire life I've ever moved to a place without my family. And one of my leaders randomly just reaches out to me and says, "Hey, Nelson, I just want you to know, my family and I created he called it it was like a festive package." I'm messing up the name. So, I hope when he watches this video, he's like, you could have got my name right. But anyway, you could have got the name of it. It's like a festive package. And his family put together like a care package for me, knowing, they believed that I was going to be here by myself for Thanksgiving, just to say, thank you. We value, we appreciate you. And I will tell you, you talk about random act of kindness, the kindness of generosity where an employee does not know what I'm doing. I sit at a VP level, and most people don't want to sit down and come talk to a VP. They're not going to randomly send you anything because of where you sit, and you don't have a lot of interaction. And so for this leader to just say, "Hey, I thought of you. My family were, we were concerned whether you were going to be alone," and put together a package for me. I will tell you, it just lets me know that I am in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
This Utah market with this Utah team.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. And it's the first time anybody's ever done it for me.
Yes. Yeah. And what that requires, Nelson, is that paying attention. He's paying attention to you as a human, you and your family situation. You're on your own. You and like just had somebody that he cares about and wants to help, and like probably asking that question of like, what do I have to offer? And could I put this package together and deliver it? And how would you feel about that? And then you appreciating it the way that you did, I'm sure just was like that reciprocity. I think that that's the thing about giving is that we give, do the right thing, but then we end up getting so much in return, like joy and fulfillment. And he probably was like, oh, I'm so glad I was courageous enough to ask if I could deliver this.
Right. And what I'll tell you this, here's what's funny to me is I am usually that person that do something random like that. And to have it done back to me.
Yes.
I'll tell you, it makes my eyes a little moist now because, in 21 years in the business, when somebody does something with that level of generosity and love, and they've only known you for 11 months, we're talking, this is still my first year in Utah. And I'll tell you, the team's still getting to know me. We've lived a virtual life
for
9 months now. And so they have virtually, been able to experience, who I am as a person. If I'm funny, I'm self-proclaimed funny. And so, my corny jokes and
I think you're funny.
My leadership style. And to be here now and to have somebody do that, it just lets me know, look, in 2020, talk about just doing some amazing things. There are some amazing people in the world. Right in our faces. We just have to make sure we're paying attention.
Mm-hmm. And it restores our hope to say it like in a very broad way, our hope in humanity, but it really does, like to see that there are other people who would do something that you would do. Like you're saying, like normally I'm the person doing the random act of kindness or dropping off the box or noticing the thing like, oh, that person might be on their own over the holidays. Let me, see how I could be supportive. To see that there are others that will do that is just to me so inspiring, and it just delights me to know that there's people like that in the world.
Right. Same here. I mean, look, and being here and realizing I have the amazing team that I have.
Yeah.
They told me before I came, the team is amazing, but you cannot walk into a situation and know until you really feel it.
Yeah.
And for the experience to have people just treat me as if I'm family right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. Look, you can restore your faith in our society, right? And being, in Utah, which is totally different than in California. It's actually a bigger state than people realize.
Sure.
Everything is in pockets.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everything is there. It's just a humongous state, and you can always run into people. In Utah, you can run into people, and then you can run into a variety of just beautiful land.
Sure.
And that also gives you reflection and helps you think about it. Like, all right, like I can spend 3 hours driving down to, Moab. Adds 3 hours and some change of reflection that I am going to get out of 2020 as well.
Yeah, that's a gift to yourself too. Just to go on a beautiful trip and take it all in. I think that's terrific. And I think that this is a theme for Comcast. Next week's guest is Philemon Lopez, and we pre-recorded it because it's right around the holidays. And he shared that he was the senior vice president of operations down in Florida, and there was all of the hurricanes, similar to what you were speaking about with just the natural disasters and just how everybody came together and opened up their own homes and got each other hotel rooms. And just like as a group, like until we're all safe and secure, nobody's safe and secure.
Right.
So hearing you reiterate that and talking about the Utah team, I think just it just says a lot about the culture at Comcast. And it back in the day was a family-owned business, a super small business, and I think it's remarkable that it has maintained that feeling for many involved, that it still feels like a family, even though it's the behemoth that it is. So I just love it. So in your role, you're talking about the gift of feedback and the generosity of caring about someone enough to tell them what's going well, what could be improved. And then you shared about the random acts of kindness and ways that people can be there for each other in many ways. And then, you've also reflected on just how being a thoughtful leader and looking for ways to share insights and guidance and direction for people is a way to be generous. And you've been the recipient of that. And you've also been the person giving those kinds of things. So just could you say a little bit more about just giving wisdom, guidance, and direction?
So being in the role that I'm in, you don't really get a lot of time, with a variety of people because you're trying to make sure that you created an environment, one that's driven to org health, because you want an operation where people are happy and are comfortable coming to work. But you also want to build an environment where your business is sustainable and people have employment. And I will tell you the feedback that I receive has been it's been valuable my entire career, one, because that is an important thing that's, I will say, it's slept on. People don't appreciate the value of someone's feedback or insight for a variety of reasons. And I will tell you personally, as someone who has received a lot of feedback and not always agreed, it has been valuable as the years go on, but also as I think and revisit and look at. But when I look at this role, the valuable assets that I get is I get to be interchangeable. And my whole perspective and my whole job is to be interchangeable regardless of, what's going on. I have a Bruce Lee quote that is
yes.
And
share this with us, Nelson. This is so great.
This quote is something I've lived the last, I'll say 5+ years. I don't know when I found this quote or when I fell in love with it, but if you take a look at it, it's empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. Now, if you put water in a cup, it becomes a cup. You put water in a bottle, it becomes a bottle. You put water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friends. I love this quote because if you simply break it down, you're not going to get everything that's in the quote the first time you read it. You have to read it a few times to break down what Bruce is saying. But the thing that I take away every day, and this quote is in my house. It's at the top of my stairs. I can't miss the quote every time I leave the house because my mindset is simply to say this. No one ever asked you to change or be someone else. You have to be who you are. But just be mindful, as in water doesn't change. It adapts to its environment, so regardless of where you place water, it's just going to adapt. It's going to continue to free flow.
Yeah.
Powerful. It has, a great meaning to it. That is who we are as people. And if we all recognize, yes, you can be yourself and that you have your own power, but just be aware that when you go into situations that are not like something that you're used to, just a way to adapt and be open, be flexible.
Yeah.
That's what someone is really asking you to do. And if you can do that, you can be more successful in anything that you want to accomplish and do in life.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful, Nelson. Can you think of an example of a time when you had to say to yourself, I have to be water right now. This is a time to be like water.
I'll tell you, 2020. Having to pivot to your house and do things differently. My whole 2020 experience has been be water. Coming in as a new leader in the business, every new leader wants to come in and put their stamp on their team and their organization. And I have challenged myself to come in and be open, not change, what's in place, but be aware of what's in place, figure out what needs to be pivoted, reorganize, what puzzle piece is in the wrong place.
Right.
Reshape, re-image, and revalue everything that I would feel like needs to occur for the team in 2020, while also giving them their own uniqueness and not changing their environment. And that has been my water experience in 2020, coming in, taking over a new team. It has not been easy. But it has been one of the greatest experiences I've had because I have zero excuses.
Yeah.
I learned that, look, Shannon, if I create something and it works, create that, be a champion the thing, and then, have fun with people with it. But if it doesn't work, know when to get rid of it.
Right.
It's also important. And don't keep something that's not working.
Right. And share your learning experiences like you did with that video example of having that willingness to if you make a mistake, share it with other people so that people can benefit from what what you went through. Eleanor Roosevelt says, learn from the mistakes of others. We'll never live long enough to make them all ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. So many nuggets that you've given us today about self-care, about being connected, looking for random acts of kindness, being present with people, offering feedback, and then, just what you're sharing about be water. So thank you for your willingness to share with us, Nelson. I'm so grateful for you, and be water, my friend.
Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate the time. This has been fantastic. I wish I would have done this a lot sooner. You think that I've given you nuggets, but in all reality, you have given me nuggets, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, we're on the journey together. All right, be well, everybody. We'll see you next week.